Hey everybody, welcome. I'm back on a Friday, which is where I usually go until Sunday, but given the state of really fascinating events, I thought let's come on and, well, you know what? Repeat what we discussed really early this morning, well, yesterday morning, or depending on which side of the country you're on, and then move forward from there. And the news, of course, is as per a story broke right here at Zenny62 on YouTube and OaklandNewsNow.com and Zenny62.com and OaklandNewsOnline.com that the Oakland Raiders have restarted talks, negotiations on the lease extension to play at the Coliseum, the Oakland Coliseum, 2019 and 2020. And so that's been repeated now, it turns out, by Yahoo, and I just saw a tweet by ABC News and Larry Beal, which spurred me to come on because I said I was going to come on anyway. But you know, once again, I'm the first to actually break something, and guess what? Hey, thank you, by the way, Myra Hudis, who actually liked that. But guess what? The mainstream media, as it exists, doesn't say, "Hey, Zenny62 broke the story." I'm going to get to that later. Where we are right now is, as I repeated before, if you don't know what's happening, I'm going to assume that you don't know what's going on. I'm going to give you the Cliff Notes version before I go into detail. Hey, Patrick and Blackmon is here. Patrick, I owe you a document. I'll get to it. Let me put that aside. Nice to have you here. But the Oakland Raiders managing general partner Mark Davis tried to find another place for his team to play because he was pissed off that the city of Oakland filed a lawsuit in federal court against the Oakland Raiders and the National Football League for a 12-count lawsuit, not just antitrust, but also violations of good faith dealing in business related to the in-process relocation from Oakland to Las Vegas. So, awesome, Patrick. And so Davis tried a number of unsuccessful overtures to London, to San Diego. We even talk of San Jose State. There are all these, and then finally San Francisco, and a number of political powers that be joined together to put the kibosh on that, with the mayor of San Francisco, London Breed, who's actually slated, who's running for re-election, I might add, singing the final note, saying, "No, sorry Raiders, you can't come." That is something like she might sound if she actually had sang it. I'm quasi teasing. I like Mayor Breed a lot. London's an amazing person, but I digress. So the Raiders are logically where they should be, at a stadium that has, for the past 23 years, paid their game day expenses, which total over just around 900 million, just around $900,000 per game, totaling an average of $9 million last year. Present value, $23 million. Excuse me, $207 million over a 23-year period, hence the 23, right? So where in the stadium verse of the find another organization that was going to give you that deal? Okay, maybe another country, but then of course you have the complexities that go with that. But in the United States, no. In Las Vegas, no. You're not going to get that, okay? The Raiders have enjoyed a sweetheart deal in Oakland. Hey, John, Kala, how are you? The Raiders have enjoyed a sweetheart deal in Oakland. So you would say, where are the talks now? The talks, knowing the Raiders are trying to get two things. They're trying, but will not get, the lawsuit to be dropped. That's not happening. They don't have a lot of time to do that because the National Football League says, hey, you know what? We need to know where you're going to play for 2019 season. So I know the Raiders understand that's not going to happen. And so they are into trying to find the best deal for themselves, i.e. lowest rent, that they can get under the circumstances. They have allies on the county side, for the most part, of the Coliseum Joint Powers Authority. Something that we haven't talked about is the turnover, the change in who's on the Oakland Alameda County Coliseum Joint Powers Authority board that has taken place since the beginning of the year. Gone is Oakland District 3 Councilmember Lynette Gibson McElhaney, and in her place is new District 6 Councilmember Lauren Taylor, who's obviously being helped along and coached by Oakland District 7 Councilmember and arguably Dean of the Oakland City Council, Larry Reed. And I say that because when I attended the last Joint Powers Authority meeting and I made a statement regarding the involvement of Jones in trying to find sponsors for the Raiders, Larry was whispering something in Lauren's ear that I heard to say, this is something that came up with the attorneys, the words to that effect, okay? My hearing is generally pretty good. At any rate, even when I'm talking. But at any rate, welcome, Lauren. I said so before, I'll say again. You are a welcome addition. And not that our previous council member was not effective. She was very effective. But I'm glad you're here. At any rate, other than that, on the county side, it's still Alameda County Supervisor Nate Miley, Alameda County Supervisor Scott Haggerty, and then the city side has new attorney representation. Betsy Lake is the assistant city administrator. Now she has a seat on the board, the staff board of the Joint Powers Authority. For one meeting, it was the city administrator herself, Sabrina Landrief, but Betsy Lake has taken her position. All the other city attorney staff that have been present, like Otis McGee and others, are there, and also on the county side are there or are back in place. So, for the most part, Lauren's the new guy. Again, as I said, taking his cue. Well, I'm not. That's not fair to Lauren to say he's taking his cues from Larry, but Lauren, would be the first to tell you, hey, I'm learning. Okay. Hey, Joseph Armendura says a few minutes ago, Bleacher Report mentioned they're still in talks with 49ers to let him play Levi's Stadium. Everyone else says it's a dead deal. I can't quote Bleacher Report. I can only say that there's nothing stopping the Raiders from talking to multiple parties. That's what the Raiders do. Now, knowing the Raiders, they will use one organization as leverage for the other, okay? So then Joseph says a subsequent tweet from report also stated that Oakland's willing to drop the lawsuit if they double the lease price for the city. Now, that's whoever tweeted that out, Joseph, that's incorrect. I can tell you 1,000,000% that's incorrect. Because, for one thing, here's what's wrong with that. And in fact, Joseph, name the reporter that said that. I want you to name names. Don't just write that, because just name a name. Okay, here's why that's wrong. Because first of all, that reveals two things. First of all, a lack of knowledge of the deal and a lack of knowledge of the relationships. There's two sides here. There's the city of Oakland and the county of Alameda. Okay, the city of Oakland has filed a lawsuit. The county of Alameda has not. Well, actually, three sides. There's the city of Oakland, the county of Alameda, and the Joint Powers Authority, the Coliseum, and in between. The city of Oakland has filed a lawsuit. The county of Alameda has not. The lease is in the purview or the control of the Joint Powers Authority, not the city. The city's decision to file a lawsuit is separate from the Joint Powers Authority, okay? The Joint Powers Authority has no say over what the city does. So that, if that tweet did exist, and I'm only saying that because, I didn't see it. You're reporting something I know is off base, okay? You haven't told me who said it, all right? So my point is, whoever put that out there, if they did put that out there, put out a falsehood. And again, if you can't, let me put it this way: if you can't state the reporter, the name of the reporter that did it, then in point of fact, the information didn't really exist. And I'm sorry to be that way, but we need to really tighten up the information that's out there. It's getting a little silly, and that's definitely silly. Okay, that's definitely silly. So again, if you can't, I'm just typing here, what reporter? I'm typing what reporter. I don't believe it. Believe it. So what reporter? I don't believe it. Sorry. I don't believe it. Okay. Again, so anyway, John says, do I think there'll be a lease agreement sometime next week? No, I don't. I don't know when that's going to occur because I don't, I'll have a better idea, excuse me, but I'm not into guessing end games. See, a lot of you want end game. You want to know, for example, hey, what's the answer? What's the this? What's the that? Right? And okay. So, Raj Matai. Okay, Raj Matai is the same person that put out the tweet that started this mess in the first place when he said that the Raiders were actually going to San Francisco, all right, on Super Bowl Sunday when he put that out. So if it comes from Raj, I'm sorry, that's way off base. That's massively off base. Okay, that is completely off. And not only that, you know what it proves to me? This says a lot. It's Raj Matai. I'm spelling his name is R-A-J, then okay, like that. All right. And so if it's Raj Matai who put that out there, you know what that tells me? It tells me that the Raiders are playing him. Two things. A, the Raiders are feeding him stuff. He's putting it out there as the source. He doesn't want to name them as the source. But they're trying to engineer the idea that the lawsuit can be dropped through him. In other words, they're putting him in play. That's the state of media you have today, folks, because I can tell you right off the bat, that's not happening. The city of Oakland is not going to drop a lawsuit for, a $2 million or $3 million higher rent to the Joint Powers Authority, which is shared with the county, right? When they have a lawsuit that they can gain hundreds of millions, if not billions, from. That in and of itself should tell you that the information you got is nonsensical. Okay? So, all right. So, check it out. Just a copy paste. Hey, Joseph, copy paste the name in Twitter for us. Copy paste the name that I just gave you in Twitter for us and go and run a check. You'll get his Twitter account, and you can see his Twitter account. You can tell us if what it exactly says, rather than harboring a guess, because it's important to get this sort of thing right, as opposed to thinking that I'll use any mouthpiece to put out something that isn't true. No, because I'll end the game that one. I want to say something on that basis too. First of all, this entire episode just proves how much of a shambles media is in. I get a tweet. Now I've known Larry Beal for a long time. I get a tweet saying, incorrect. And I'm like, incorrect about what? And then it turns out that I guess someone said, hey, you got the story from Zinni and there, and he says incorrect. And what it reminded me of is something that I tweeted about that I really have to, I've talked about it again, but I'm going to mention it again because it was upsetting. And about a month and a half ago, if you remember that I interviewed Ignacio De La Fuente on live stream regarding the Raiders lease situation. And um, and um, and so I'm just saying. And so anyway, visit Twitter. Okay, and so anyway, this person called me that night and said, and I'm gonna just say the person was a producer with ABC7 News, okay, and says, hey Zen, gotta ask you, that interview you did with Ignacio, did he know he was being recorded live? I said, what? Of course. What are you talking about? And this is a person who passed himself off as a friend. And I'm thinking, why is he asking me this question? He sounded like he was drunk, okay? So I said, of course. I've known Ignacio De La Fuente since, wow, I want to say 1989, 1990, somewhere 1990, all right? This is, a long time, okay? And so, so anyway, so my point is, Ray said that, not Ray, I'm sorry, but I'm trying not to use this person's name, okay? The ABC7 producer, his name is not Ray. I'll just call him, but I'll call him Ray for the purpose of the discussion. Ray said, hey, that's not the way we do things. And I said, the way you do what things? And to make a long story short, I said to him, what bothered me was that he would question my way. It's my media company, as I told him. I have my methods and my relationships. What you should be talking to me about is the information that I was given and your desire to use it on your network, okay? But then he says, I'm just trying to watch out for you, man. I'm just trying to watch out for your back. I said, watch out for me how? Oh, man. And then I said, you're not watching out for me. I said, what it sounds like, to be honest, it sounds like a little white supremacy. In other words, I'm just trying to, on high, tell you how things are done. I'm better than you. You're doing this the wrong way, without, asking me any questions. Like, for example, how many times, hey, that's great, you got Ignacio. Yeah, because I called Ignacio like, 4 or 5 times and said, hey, I want you on my live stream as things are going on, right? Some of you may have heard me put in the call, okay? So, and then I was texting him on top of that. Hey, man, can you go on live? Can you go on live? So I got him live. But with all that, he still just keeps questioning. I'm trying to explain this to him. That's why I thought he was drunk, all right? This is an ABC7 producer in San Francisco. Okay, all right? Okay. Out of the blue, supposed to be a friend of mine. A friend of mine. This is all around the same issue, the Raiders. Okay? I'm just giving you an example of some of the BS that I get. In this case from the media, and then of course there are these, some of these racist fans who claim to be Raider fans who live outside of Oakland, never been to Oakland, claim to be pro Vegas or anything, or just have these little teensy Twitter accounts with 0 followers or 1 or 2, and they just make them just, to be trolls or to harass people, right? So you wind up blocking them all the time. And some of them are anti-Semites, I might add. You have some bad elements out there who don't use their real name. If they use their real name, they'll be put on a list someplace. There's some bad people out here, folks. Okay? I'm just calling it like it is. Someone's got to call it like it is. So, because all of this slightly impedes the ability to get out what's really happening. Everyone should want to know what's really happening. In the blogosphere, when it was first growing, one blog would put out something, the other blog would check it. Great. And that's the way it should work now. It shouldn't be this flaming and tearing down. Okay? But that's what we get. All right? So, And so, hey, G. Taylor, I need to see the tweet. I don't need to see your words. I need you to get the tweet, put the link in, and give me the information. Otherwise, it doesn't exist, okay? I need the accurate information. I don't need this bullshit. And that's exactly what it is, okay? I need to know, okay? Because again, what I'm saying to G. Taylor about is this idea that Oakland's going to drop the lawsuit over a teensy reduction in rent. Anybody who puts that out there doesn't know the deal. And I would never, ever associate an Oakland City Council member with having said that, because no Oakland City Council member who actually knows the deal would say that unless they were brand new. And I don't think even brand new would say it. The only three people, Lauren Taylor, Shane Tao, and Nikki Bass, who are new, who could possibly make such a mistake. And in their case, they should really say, you know, I'm new, I haven't really looked at it much. It's very important to get the information right. If you don't have the information right, just admit you don't have the information right. Because if you have it wrong, I'm actually going to, this is what I'm going to do. If I see you have something wrong, I'm going to delete your comment. I'm going to be very draconian and hardball about this. Get it right. Okay? You can't get it right, don't put it here. Just saying. So, get it right. So, what I'm doing, G. Taylor, is I'm taking that. I removed that comment. All right? I want you to come back with the right information. Okay? You get the right information, it stays. You put the wrong information up, it goes away. Playing hardball, folks. We're gonna produce better media in what little time I have tonight. Okay? And so Mike Evaluator says huge increased lease payment lawsuit dropped. Okay. Jacob says I'd rather the Raiders not play in Oakland for the upcoming season. Could the Coliseum host other events to make up for the football revenue? They could. I mean, I think that's a very good question. And Cesar, if you got a comment, I'll come back to that, all right? But I want to get to Earl's question. There are, I would say, a number of gaming-related events that could be hosted at the Coliseum, and I mean large scale, that could make up the revenue difference. Gaming is huge. Esports, huge. E-competitions are huge, okay? And I mean to the point where in a number of stadiums, they are drawing as many as 70,000 people. John Collins says, new lease agreement will probably be for 2019, 2020, no option for 2020. It'll be 2019 and 2020. There's no logical reason to have an option at this point, because I think it's pretty well accepted that the Raiders Stadium is not going to be open for a full 2020 NFL season. And having said that, the Raiders are going to have a mess to straighten out with PSL buyers who may have expected that their PSLs are going to be good for a full 2020 NFL season. That's not happening. It just isn't. So, and there's no use pushing the issue, because the question becomes, you know, why would anyone want to sell a mistruth? Okay. Gucci says, do you think their stadium issues could affect their play on the field? No, I don't. Look at, you know, we want a great example of an NFL organization that performed very well in spite of its stadium situation. Look at the San Diego Chargers. San Diego Chargers marched to where they were within striking distance, if you will, of a Super Bowl. Okay, well, this is interesting. This other person says, if you're a wrestling fan, did you know there's going to be a new wrestling promotion? No, I didn't know that. But see, I'm glad you add that, because you have wrestling, gaming. There are events that can help bring in money to offset the loss of the Raiders. But they have to be events that attract large numbers of people. And they have to be done now. So the faster the Raiders can make their decision, the faster the Coliseum can hurry up, okay, and make up that difference if it's not the Raiders. However, I don't care if the Raiders are also talking to Levi Stadium. The Raiders are not going to get the kind of deal they have in Oakland at Levi Stadium. Levi Stadium is under no circumstances will Levi Stadium not pay their game day expenses. Someone else has got to pay that. Is it the NFL? Farita? Who is it, right? I don't know. Machiavelli says, was staying in Oakland and renovating the Coliseum ever in Mark's plan? Not seriously, no. Ever since he went to Las Vegas in 2014, had that meeting about gambling, that was what he was stuck on. And his actions, and as they've been recorded in media, particularly keep pointing to work at ESPN, are obvious. Mark is, that's been a focus of Mark's. But the problem is, the problem right now is this, okay? It's not, and Patrick and Blackmon brings up a great question. What about the American Alliance League putting a team in Oakland? Well, the question is, have they been approached? And no, because right now you've got, they haven't been. The XFL was, but the Alliance League, I need to also do some homework on that because I don't know, I don't have complete information on that. The XFL, different story, and I've reported on that. But the Alliance, I don't. You do realize the Alliance League starts tomorrow, right? So that's not happening. And so Hardcore Raider says, Gucci, yes, if media hate equals divided Raider Nation, kills morale of team. Interesting. Interesting. So at any rate, getting back to Levi Stadium will cost $15 million, okay? I don't know what the game day expenses there will be, but if they're in the range of $900,000 at the Coliseum, I would be very surprised if they were not below $1 million per game at Levi Stadium. So you're looking at, all right, $1 million, say $1 million. You have to remember, that's not just the 8 games, because if you're thinking Zinni, that's just $8 million. It's not just the 8 home games. You have to tack on the 2 preseason games. So you're looking at $10 million a year, not including the playoffs, right? In the Oakland parlance, in the Oakland example at the Coliseum, the JPA has paid that $9 million. Will the same deal be offered at Levi Stadium? And if it's not, it says 2 things to me. A, the NFL, which is the body that's most logically easiest to pay, would pay that sort of thing, is not willing to do so, which is telling in itself. I don't know that they are or not. I'm simply speculating, A. And then B, it means that Raiders haven't found another suit like the Frita brothers or anybody else to foot the bill, okay? So Oakland, the Coliseum, becomes a place they need to be at. And if all this is driven just because Mark is still angry, then the outcome for the Raiders is still not a good one. All right? So Cesar says, will the Raiders... Oh, hey, Calbert, so no, there's not an agreement. Cesar says, will the Raiders revisit Amy Trask's idea for the Raiders' last home game next season if they go back to Oakland? It was a great idea she brought up last season. I think there's talk about that buzzing around. It's a great idea. And for 2 reasons. Not just the matter of the finality of the Raiders in Oakland, but the fact that this is the NFL's 100th season we're coming into, right? And why not, if you're going to leave Oakland, do so during a season, in a celebration, during a season where all of the great memories of Raiders past in Oakland come to mind. I've talked about for example, the Heidi game, or the great players like Philip Villapiano and Ted Hendricks and the 11 Angry Men with Big Ben Davidson and University of Mars and Otis Sistrunk and Mark Van Egan and Clarence Davis and the Sea of Hands, and right? I mean, on and on and on. The great victories we've had against the Pittsburgh Steelers, the great Pittsburgh Steelers games we've had. Okay, I mean, they go on and on and on. And so there's no place, no better place for the Raiders to end their Oakland existence on the NFL 100 than the Coliseum. It just makes sense. Okay? Oracle Arena is approximately 18,000. Hardcore Raider says, if we stay in Oakland, it's possible that we can make the playoffs and have our last game in Oakland against the Patriots, just like the Patriots' last home game at Foxborough was against us. That would be cool. Now, Gucci says a good draft could turn people's opinion of this team. I think about that. It's not a good draft. Because last year, I argue, we had a good draft. And for the most part, okay. But then you come out, you win, 4 games? That's it. Hey, Black Lion, how you doing? That's it, all right? Cowboy Rush says, do you think the NFL is regretting not giving the Raiders the first option to be Kroenke's tenant, leaving the Chargers' problems in the Los Angeles market? I think there are some people who may very well be doing that. But I think there are others who may think, well, I know that there's a faction that thinks, we don't want to deal with gambling. So perhaps we should have done a better job of helping the Raiders in Oakland. All right, but you had 2 problems. You had, I'm just being honest, you had the mayor that really didn't understand development economics enough to understand how to do a land swap without giving away money, okay? It's a little trick there. That was one problem. And then you had the other where Mark himself wasn't dealing in, wasn't being an honest player with the city of Oakland and just saying, hey, you know what? And Mark will vociferously argue against this. But there's incident after incident after incident. There's comments by people like Oakland Councilman Larry Reed who said, hey, the Raiders lied to us in 2016. There's a similar situation that came out with respect to Carson and the Raiders in 2015. There's a lot of this bad stuff under there, bad information that would went counter to what Mark said. That's just out there. That's just fact, okay? That's not, this is not a pretty situation, folks. It just sadly isn't. Corey Brown says, what if the Raiders miraculously made the Super Bowl and win it while playing in a temporary city? Who hosts the victory parade? You tell me. Ryan Abbott, that's kind of like, I don't know. Ryan Abbott says, people talking about the Oakland keeping the Raiders name, wouldn't it have been funny if Dallas Texans kept the name when they moved to Kansas City? The Kansas City Texans. Yeah. Errol Jacobs says, when my wife and I divorced, we didn't reminisce about the good times during our marriage. Well, this is different, Earl. I mean, I think if your wife and you were celebrities who had a TV show that lasted for 2 decades, and then you announced that you were going to get a divorce just before your last telecast, your fans would want to have some kind of send off, okay? Because then it's about more than just you and your wife. It's about you, your wife, and your wife's fans. You got to take care of your fans. They're gonna reminisce about you whether you want them to or not. That's just the way it goes. That's just part of the deal, okay? And so Machiavelli says, is it possible for the Raiders to have a training facility? Earl says, Raiders go low, let's let go. No. No. Cowboy Wrestler says, let's be honest, we wouldn't be talking about the Raiders to Vegas if the stadium measure passed in San Diego. That's true. Cowboy Wrestler, I think you're absolutely right. But that stadium measure, what bothers me about that stadium measure is the deal around which it was constructed. It rested too much on hotel taxes when they could have done redevelopment. They could have done taxing and refinancing, lumped that into the equation into the deal scheme, and had actually a lower hotel tax rate, and made it a more civic mind, a deal that was more, how do I say it, more liquid, um, and they could argue that they were actually taking property tax money and using it for a constructive purpose that increases the city's convention space. Now you would say, why did I say that the way that I did? Because in the back of my mind, San Diego Comic-Con executives, including their now late president, rest in peace, sad loss, would say, Zinni, we don't want that other facility to be built, called that combination stadium convention center, to be built blocks away, because it actually splits up the campus, from the main area of the San Diego Convention Center, where they have all of these halls in one long go, right? They didn't want that. So they weren't really happy about the configuration as it was proposed. I personally disagree, because I felt that Comic-Con could use the entire stadium for really big rollouts. Let's say Godzilla or something like that. Imagine the whole stadium committed, the new Hall H, if you will, and instead of it being 6,600 people, it could be something like 30,000 people, right? And you have a bigger screen and a bigger impact, and it'd be just fantastic. That was my thought. But moving along, Joseph says to Cowboy Wrestler, NFL doesn't regret Chargers LA because that's what Kroenke wanted. Hey, Joseph, you owe me a tweet. He says that's what Kroenke wanted. He says if Raiders were in LA, they would dominate the market. LA, the Raiders fans took over in August preseason. Hardcore Raider, it's dollars. Machiavelli says once they moved to Vegas. Cesar says, also, I forgot, speaking of Amy Trask, do you believe she will be there for the Raiders' final home game in Oakland if they come back? I really like her a whole lot, and I think she definitely should. I agree. Ask her. She's on Twitter. Black Lion Supreme says, this is not Dallas. This is the Raiders born and raised in Oakland. Hardcore Raider says, Oakland Coliseum is the smallest stadium in the NFL at 56,000, next to Chargers rental stadium. 2017 only sold 85% of our seats. Revenue was $24 million versus largest Cowboys of $55 million. Right. Cowboy Wrestler. And so basically a lot of Oakland's problem is the fact the stadium is too small. Cowboy Wrestler says, Joseph Anduras, I fully understand the Raiders' popularity in the Los Angeles area, but let's be honest, the Chargers are becoming a disaster there. Nobody cares about them even when they're good. Hardcore Raider says, our seats are cheap and can't sell out. You do the math. Hey, something else. I understand that there's been a problem with there was a problem with the Super Bowl ratings in the Los Angeles area. Ooh. And so Joseph says, I'm agreeing with you. Nobody likes the Chargers. Yeah, I saw that. Hey, everybody, welcome to Zenny62 on a Friday night. I'm glad you're here. We're talking about matters related to the idea that the Raiders are negotiating to return to the Oakland Coliseum for the 2019 and 2020 season. And that's what's happening, okay? I'm actually going to go have some fun and see what the Review Journal is dragging in. my frenemies at the Review Journal. Boy, oh boy, oh boy. Let's see here. And let's see, go on sports. Click on sports. Go to articles, the Review Journal. And let's see here. There's nothing with football. As UNLV, Dave Beckham. 3 ex-Rebels to play in new football league. And, wow. Trying to wait for these advertisements to go away. And okay, here we go. All right. Boy. This is something else when you have a page that takes a long time to scroll down, okay? They still have the old news, all right? Get this. Get this. The Review Journal has the old report. Raiders want to play in Oracle Park, need approval. They cannot stomach I mean, they cannot stomach, this is old news, this is what they have here. The Review Journal cannot stomach the fact that San Francisco's off the table. They can't. Okay? That's hilarious. They have no news here that reflects, okay? Reflects the newest truth. However, there is a column I just saw that's really interesting. This is the title of it. Limo driver fired after chat with Raider owner Mark Davis. Ooh, this is juicy. This is by Ron Kantowski. Ron Kantowski, okay? And I'm waiting for I'm waiting for this page to open. The Review Journal pages have a tendency to open slowly. I gotta read this, folks. The title is too juicy not to take a gander at. This is now I'm reading this column. Like so many Las Vegans, since it was announced the NFL's Raiders will be moving here in 2020, a fellow named Dan Holmgren recently had a chance meeting with Mark Davis, the team's accessible and amiable owner. It was a major thrill for the limo driver who grew up in the Bay Area. The brief conversation would cost Holmgren, 53 years old, his job. He had been driving for Abraham Limo Service for less than a month. No connection to me. On January 28th, Holmgren was on duty in the staging area at Caesar's Palace, first in line. He had been idling for nearly 4 hours with nary a fare, blaming it on Uber and Lyft. It was around 10:45 p.m., he said, when a familiar haircut was noticed near the taxi line being on the main entrance at Caesar's. Being a devout follower of all things silver and black and a member of a consortium that purchased 8 seat licenses at $7,500 each for when Las Vegas Stadium opens, Holmgren immediately identified the man standing next to Mark Davis as Raiders president Mark Bedane. Holmgren said he told the starter, the man in charge of limousine service at the curbside, that he was going to say hello to Davis if that was okay. He needed to stretch his legs anyway. I told Davis I've been a lifelong fan. He laughed. He said, so have I. And he said he couldn't have been nicer. And Mark Bedane gave him a Raiders lapel pin. And he said 5 minutes later, he received a call from dispatch to bring the car in, and he was fired for leaving his vehicle. He says, no one in the employee handbook doesn't say anything like that. He says, you're fired because when you have customers, you're not supposed to interact with them except to say yes or no, sir. Oh, wow, that's too bad. It's a sad story. A sad story. And he said he lost his job, but he was thrilled to meet Mark Davis. Wow, there you go. But you know what? The lesson is you never forsake your job. You do your job. I thought he was going to say, hey, I saw Mark Davis and Mark Bedane. I was going to go over and pick him up, right? But he left his car. I mean, wow. He left his car. And not only that, I'm not sure what good he gets out of it. He leaves his car. Then he gets fired. And then he's used as basically clickbait in a media publication. Oh, boy, that's a triple negative, okay? So anyway, but this underscores my overall point. There's no worthy news here about the Raiders. And then I think for all practical purposes, the Las Vegas Sun has, it would seem, given up on covering the Raiders stuff. They had a guy over there that was writing about Raider-related issues, who's now with the Review Journal writing about, transportation, but then he moves into, talking about Raider stuff. If I click on Las Vegas Raiders of the Las Vegas Sun, what do I get? No price hike for first year on UNLV football season tickets at new stadium. Ah, that's really nice. So there's some news, all right? So basically, no price hike for them, okay? Then they say, okay, this is more, they have February 7th, and then February 5th, 5 obstacles in Raiders plan path to, San Francisco Giants Park. Then the last bit of information they have regarding the latest information we're talking about is dated January 15th. So the state of media today, folks, there you go. Wow. There you go. All right. Now I'm going to go back to your comments. Just had to see what was up on the other side of the country, literally. Literally. All right. Now, Joseph Under says, you were right. Raj Mathias sent that tweet. I screenshot it from my own phone, but can I put it in Dropbox into the YouTube channel? Hey, do this. Send it to my email. Send it to Zennie, Zennie, at Zennie62.com, okay? Send that, okay? All right? That's it, all right? Cesar says, I guess Marshawn Lynch will be coming back to the team if they come back to Oakland next season. I would definitely love to see him there for the final season. You know, considering that he opened the NFL's 100th video, you know, with the fumble and everybody jumping around and Franco carrying the ball. It's cool. If you haven't seen that, you got to see it. Considering that Marshawn Lynch started off the mayhem in that video, he's got to play in the Coliseum this year. He just has to. It just is. Just is the way it should be done. That's the way life should be done. Life should be lived. You know what I mean? Yeah. Got to. All right. So that pretty much. Machiavelli asks, what happened? Oh, you guys were talking about facts, and let me go back. Black Lion says, Cowboy Wrestler says, Los Angeles has to be the weirdest sports city in America, yet so many historic sports events have taken place there. Weird, why? But I think you're saying weird because the hype around LA is bigger than the value of that the hype tends to be associated with. You know, it's I think that's mainly the problem. You think LA, like for a tourist, is this great place. If you go there, like to cover the Oscars, for example, most of the hotels that are available are just awful, and it's very difficult to find a good price-quality match. You would think someone would do something about that, but I haven't seen it. I haven't seen it at all. And then, it's every time I say, hey, I'm from Oakland or San Francisco out here, people, when they think of California, it's like Oakland and San Francisco, don't exist, or if they do, they think maybe it's closer to, Southern California, and they're shocked to find out that there's a 500-mile distance between San Francisco, Oakland, and Los Angeles basin, okay? It's amazing, and their minds are focused on LA. But the reality is that the San Francisco Bay Area has carried 2/3 of the California economy for the last, 6 or 7 years, all right? For the last 6 or 7 years. Joseph says he sent the email, so I'm going to get it. And it's almost 2 o'clock. I'm going to close out soon, mainly because I'm still recovering from the flu, folks. And my mom and I watched Blue Bloods. Incredible show. And, here we go. Okay. Got the screenshot of Mr. Matai's supposed tweet here. And let's see here if I can. Let's see here. And I am opening that momentarily so I can get a better, view of what I'm trying to see, right? At this point. Now, hey, Earl, thanks a lot. Earl says, thank you. Appreciate that. This is download. Try to open it. Open with preview. There. Okay. Thank you, Joseph, by the way, if I didn't say so before. And while I'm waiting for this to open. And Joseph has his email's Godfather. Are you Godfather Grizz, man? Reminds me of a photograph the Bay Area will always be the engine of the Golden State. That's true. But yeah, that's what I'm getting at. the Bay Area, because of the emergence of tech, Apple and Tesla and PayPal and all the VCs, they have engineered the growth of California, the economic growth of California, straight up. So meanwhile, the motion picture industry in Southern California has actually declined. Do you realize that the largest American producer of movies in terms of states is Georgia, not California? That's right. Roughly 1 out of every 5 major motion pictures are made right here in this state. I mean, so I keep counting the days until I hear the Academy Awards are considering leaving Los Angeles for Atlanta. I keep thinking that's going to happen at some point. All right. Here's the preview. Slow to open. Why is everything so slow to open today? Cancel that. And get the spinning wheel of death. See, that's why I didn't turn the camera over to have you see anything, because you'll be looking at this ball going like, and then hearing me make sound effects, kind of like Speed Racer, right? Okay. 5 hours ago, update to what Raiders were waiting for. Oakland City Council President Kaplan tells me if the Raiders wanted to offer us a huge increased lease payment, much more we previously discussed in exchange for. Oh, this is a guess. Okay, this is not. See, what happened was, this is entirely different than what I was told. And this is Rebecca just being provocative, because Rebecca knows doggone well it's not going to fly. But this is what Raj got Rebecca to say, and it's this. Update to what we're waiting for. Oh, Kaplan tells me if the Raiders wanted to offer us a huge increased lease payment, much more than we previously discussed, in exchange for dropping the lawsuit, we might be willing to consider it. Okay? Now, how much would the question is, how much would such a lease how much, I have to call Rebecca on that, how much would that be? All right? And they would not want to negotiate that in public, but I would think that, considering they would have to pay the attorneys and everything else, you're looking at $30 million. All right, that's at least that would be the least price of admission. But you know what, folks, that ain't happening. That's just Rebecca being weird. Okay, that's just what that is. Okay, so that's all that is. That's all that is. I have zero currency for that one at all. So at any rate, Machiavelli says, what happened to Candlestick? Candlestick was demolished some time ago. Jacob says, do you feel that Oakland is a victim of having the poorest owner in the NFL? No, I think Oakland is a victim of having an owner, a manager of the general partnership, not full ownership, that for some particular reason doesn't like the city, and hasn't played much in Oakland, doesn't seem as if he's committed to Oakland, and views Oakland in a sense by his behavior as less than rather than greater than. Now, to his defense, to Mark Davis' defense, Oakland hasn't done much to shift his feelings the other way. Okay, we haven't treated sports as an economic development industry. We treated it as a raison d'etre to discuss whether we like or dislike a certain person, be it Dave Cavall or Mark Davis. Whereas, if it's, for example, Kaiser Permanente, we have a professional relationship with the CEO of Kaiser, right? We have a professional relationship with every other business that considers coming into Oakland. But when it comes to our sports teams, it's always personal and unprofessional in the Oakland context. That's why we lost the Warriors to San Francisco. San Francisco, under their late Mayor Ed Lee, approached pursuing the Warriors from a professional and aggressive way. And that's why what came up came up. All right, folks, it's 2:05. I'll pick this up. I'll pick this up tomorrow. But it's time to go to bed. Good night, everybody. Thank you. I'll see you. Thank you.